All right. So Virus says, what do you think? What do you think the reason is to put games like Moon Karts on Web3? Is it just to play and earn? It makes sense for card games and some others. I guess skins and Web2 type games also. Well, what's the reason? Well, because I think people like the idea of being able to earn, Virus. So I mean, I understand where you're coming from. Like, card games make sense, but what was the first game that really took off in 2021? It wasn't a card game. It was Axie, right? And you could make the argument that like Axie just kind of spruced things up a little bit, but I don't think that it only comes down to card games. I understand why card games have a ridiculously high appeal, just because we have the analog parallel, pun not intended, but we have the analog parallel to it, right? Where it's just like, okay, we used to collect these cards in physical format, and now you're able to collect them in a digitally scarce format. That didn't really exist before in a completely decentralized, true ownership way. Yeah, you could do it in the Web2 model before with MTG Arena and others, but you didn't actually own it. You were just using up space on someone else's servers. Whereas now, you can go in and you own stuff on the blockchain. And this is again where I say Splinterlands is very different than other games. And they've gotten into trouble in the past about the fact that they're not real NFTs because they only exist on the layer 2 on Splinterlands servers. It's very difficult to take them out and get value or use them in other ways. Whereas if you owned Axie Infinity, or if you owned an Axie and the Axie's and Axie Infinity's website went down, you would still have those Axies on your private wallet. So again, I've talked about this at length. I don't know how Splinterlands solves that problem, or if they need to solve it. It's kind of just I know they're trying to move towards being a decentralized game, but that's a huge hurdle, and it's a matter of how do they cross that barrier? How do you get it so that something like a Parallel, for example, where you own the cards in your own wallet, right? In your own private wallet. So even if the game goes down, the game crashes, somebody could come in and make a brand new game and you would still own the assets. So I don't know how Splinterlands crosses that hurdle, but at the same time, they've been able to do so much because they have a centralized kind of server where they're able to just capture all of these, transactions, and everything runs on Hive, but it's all done kind of in their own sandbox. So going back to your original question, let me try to answer it with that context in mind. What is the reason to put Moon Karts? I think people like the idea of playing and earning, right? So I don't know what the meritocracy requirements will be to be really good at Moon Racer. And this is why it's very different than something like a Splinterlands and something like a Parallel, something even like an Axie Infinity, because if you create imagine trying to create, I will say the Fortnite of Web3 is going to win. Okay. But Fortnite is very egalitarian in the sense that there is nothing that you can do or buy that enhances your gameplay. Everything that you do it all comes down to your skill. You can skin yourself the way that you want, get all different kinds of cosmetics, but none of that is actually going to change how the gameplay works out. It all comes down to your skill level. I still think that's a model that's underexplored, because most of the games we see, whether it's Axie, whether it's Parallel, probably even with Illuvium, right? It comes down to what do you own? What do you own and how good are you with it, right? So I don't know where Moon Karts is going to fall in that category. If I had to guess, it's probably going to be very much how much do you own, just because it's created by the same team as Splinterlands. But it's okay, so what's the point of the racing then, right? So imagine this: if you were to do a parallel, yes, pun intended this time. If you were to do a parallel of something like Splinterlands to something like to Moon Karts, and you said, okay, if somebody's able to play in champion, right? What's a champion level Moon Kart or a racer? If the way that a champion level deck can beat down on a bronze level deck, if all of a sudden it's okay, if you have a champion level racer, you can go at a speed of 10, but if you have a bronze racer, you can only, you can max out at a speed of 2. The bronze racers have no chance. So once again, it comes down to how much can you spend, right? But the cool thing that again, I think Splinterlands has done a really good job with is, all right, well, for all the people that want to all the people that want to kind of invest in the space and the scholarship model and all that, I mean, maybe you're not a good racer, maybe that's never been your type of game, but you can create an awesome NFT based racer that is like customized, with all of your accessories and things, and bring in a scholar, somebody who's actually good at that. And here's the beauty of that whole thing, Virus. And I'm trying to land the plane here. So here's the beauty of that. When it comes down to like a racing game versus something like a card game, which has all these different complexities, I would say there's more people that are able to just plug and play into a racing game than with a traditional card game, just because the barrier of entry in knowledge terms, not financial, but in knowledge terms, is so high. But the barrier of entry to like hit the accelerate button and toggle left and right with your joystick or whatever it is, it's much less. So that could be the onboarding where it's just like, okay, you have a ton of people who own like these sick decked out racers that are able to, earn at the highest levels. Well, then here we go with the opportunity where somebody can come in from any part of the world that was really good at playing Mario Kart or Gran Turismo or whatever other racing games are popular right now. They can come in with that skill set already. They don't need to learn much outside of just how to operate maybe certain, little Mario Kart-esque things that they might do. But the barrier to entry of knowledge is so much lower for that. And then all of a sudden they can start to earn. And this gets back to like the competitive aspect, right? Something that Splinterlands is not able to do because of the botting, because of the botted nature, something like Moon Karts should be able to, which is why I'm actually quite excited for it. Again, assuming that everything goes well, everything goes smoothly, and it fulfills all of the expectations that we have of it. It's because you shouldn't be able to bot something like that. It's going to require someone to come in, use an actual joystick, use their skill set as a human being, and win. And maybe it'll be botted. I don't know. All games can be botted, right? Even when you play Mario Kart, there's AI racing against you. But, at the end of the day, that kind of gameplay is much more dynamic. And that is what I think the value is for bringing that onto the blockchain and offering it with the same kind of reward structure that Splinterlands does. Will it be successful? I have no idea. But do I hope it'll be successful? Absolutely.